Welcome back to Speed Doxathon 2024. We've had marvelous runs all day today, and we're going to keep that going right now with IllegallySam here with Rebel Transmute any percent. IllegallySam, take it away.
Hello everybody, I am IllegallySam, and as you just heard, this is Rebel Transmute. I will be running any percent for you today, and if you've never heard of Rebel Transmute, what do you mean you haven't heard of every indie game ever? I mean, like, come on, you don't know every single indie game that's ever been released? Now, Rebel Transmute is an indie Metroidvania that was released earlier this year, back in March. I backed it on Kickstarter, actually, a few years back. And it finally came out, and it's fun, and now I'm speedrunning it. So, yeah, like I said, it's an indie Metroidvania. That'll give you a good gist of what's going on before I even explain anything specific about the run. But yeah. Might as well hop into things. So time will start when I clear this autosave text box here. So I will give a countdown for that. So we'll get started in 3, 2, 1, let's get going. Alright, like every good speedrun, you skip the opening cutscenes. Alright, so this is Rebel Transmute. Like I said, it's an indie Metroidvania, 2D platformer. And you start out with a slide. And so right out the gate, we're schmoving. Because like every Metroidvania, you know, I'm going to be unlocking more movement abilities and stuff like that. But because you start out with a slide right away, pretty quickly you're already trying to optimize the movement as much as possible. But we've already got our first 2 upgrades 30 seconds in. So the first thing I picked up was an augment. Augments are sort of like charms in Hollow Knight, where you've got a certain amount of slots and they do certain things when you equip them. And the one I picked up is going to give me extra spark blood, which is used for the second upgrade that I picked up, which is my spark blood injector, which if I hit the B button while it's full, I will heal. You know, sort of like Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight's a good equalizer as far as explaining mechanics in these games, I feel. But yeah, so the gist of what's going to be going on is, you know, I've got Spark Blood. When I hit enemies, I gather some back. The way the augment I picked up works is when I attack enemies, it takes 6 hits normally to fill up the Spark Blood gauge, but with the augment, it only takes 4. And when it's full, you know, I can heal one of my 4 health there. Alright, but this here is the first wave fight of the run where, you know, I just got to kill all the enemies, clear them out. Nothing too crazy, but because the enemy movements are random, you know, it's very easy to gain and lose some time here based on how things work. And also these red dudes were able to hit the blue dudes with their shots, which is always nice when they do damage to them for me. Also, all of the enemies are dropping money. It is that red flux in the top right corner. Money isn't terribly important for this run. It is 100% possible to get through the any percent run without using any of it at all, but I do use the money to get a single damage upgrade later on, and so because of that I am going to be collecting 250 red flux throughout the beginning of the run here. And it'll be more clear why I need that much later on, but yeah. Also, something I did that was easy to miss is when you are falling down from a high ledge and you land, you know, the game gives you a little bit of like landing lag where it like stuns you for a second before you can move again. But if you hit either the slide button or the shoot button the instant you land, it actually cancels it, and so you're able to get movement back right away without having that actual little stun animation. We're not sure exactly how precise it is. We think it's frame perfect, but you know, it saves a second. If you get it, awesome, looks cool. It makes you go faster. If you don't get it, you just wait the second. It's not that big a deal. But I am coming up on the first boss here, and I will need to count hits on this boss. I will explain why afterwards. But first, I gotta count to 33. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Stop there. Alright, now I need him to do a specific attack. And I just gotta wait until he does. There we go. Alright, I think I was off by one there. But at 33 hits, he transitions to phase 2, and if he's on the ground in the corner like this, he can't actually transition to phase 2, and he just gets stuck. And you can just wail on him until he dies. Makes the fight significantly easier and faster, because phase 2 is very annoying. It's also very funny, because you just get him stuck on the floor like that. Alright, this here is a transmutation. You know, Rebel Transmute, you got transmutations, those are your upgrades. And this is the first upgrade of the run. This one basically upgrades the blaster slightly so that I can shoot through those little gelatinous blocks. Doesn't really do too much other than that. It also makes it so I can damage certain enemies that I couldn't before, but other than those two things, that's pretty much all this upgrade does. Whoops. Now, come on. Don't you just love it when you mess up the basic platforming? Alright. But yeah, that's the first area. So the gist of what I'm going to be doing in this game is the first half of the run is going around collecting a bunch of required upgrades, and then the second half of the run is doing what is required for the story, essentially. And what you need to do in order to beat this game is you have to go around the map, reactivate 3 subsystems, and then once you reactivate all 3 subsystems, you can access the final boss. And so, like I said, I'm going to be going around collecting upgrades. First, this is Quarry Skip. I did some weird, funky crouch shenanigans to make it so that when I landed on that platform, I just got super speed. I don't know why it works, I just know it does. And it makes it so you can clear that gap that you're not supposed to. Because you're supposed to go all the way around in this area, like there's a whole path you're supposed to take, and then that's supposed to be like the Metroidvania route back, because this is the area where you get the dash. Like the air dash, I should say. And so you're supposed to be able to clear that with the air dash, but thanks to the weird shenanigans, you can just clear it without that. Alright, this room is very annoying, but these enemies are being nice. Alright, that was actually really solid. I don't normally get through that room without taking damage. Alright. And just like that, we're already on the next boss. This is the Carapace. It's gonna be jumping around a lot. And I just gotta wail on him while he's doing so. So yeah, after a certain amount of hits, he basically goes into a rage pattern, where he has his normal attack pattern, and he has his rage attack pattern, and then he staggers, and then he goes into a ball. Basically, the ideal way of getting through this fight is he is always in his rage pattern, because his rage pattern is really easy, and, you know, makes it very easy to get through if he's just always in his rage pattern. So really, the way this fight goes is he gets one attack in his normal pattern, then he goes into his rage pattern, and then the fight's over. Because he's already dead. Easy fight. Alright, so we're gonna go up here, get a little bit of extra money before grabbing the upgrade. And now I have the air dash. It's an air dash. Not really too much else to say. But yeah, this game, you know, it's got some Metroidvania staples, but it's also got some fun, unique stuff going on as well. But like I said, this is the air dash, which is very self-explanatory, and because of that we can go much faster, because now, in addition to spamming slide whenever I can, basically you slide, you jump, and then you air dash. And that's how I'm going to be moving in most places that don't have funky level geometry like this place.
As with any game that has an air dash, there's always shenanigans for resetting your air dash and keeping your momentum. Are we going to be seeing any sort of air dash shenanigans?
There is air dash shenanigans, but they are very hard to use consistently.
It's unfortunate.
Because like there's some goofy stuff where if you like dash off of certain walls at like certain distances, you keep your dash momentum for much longer than you're supposed to. But it's hard to use consistently. However, air dash is part of a trick later that will require several other pieces of upgrading, which will be very important for the route, which you will see later. But, funny enough, despite this being, an air dash, which often has shenanigans, this is not the piece of movement tech that has the most going on for it. That will be something that I get in about, 10 minutes or so. So keep your eyes peeled. I will be showing it off, and it'll be very, very fun when you do see it. But yeah, this is the overgrowth. It's the green area. Gotta have a green area. Yeah, this is going to be very grassy, filled with grass-type enemies. They're going to be shooting vines at us. They're going to be covered in moss, all that kind of stuff. But this is also one of the harder areas for platforming because it's a lot of enemies that can get in your way. There's a lot of fans, lots of stuff like that. So ideally, all right, that guy was in a good spot. So something that is actually true for the dash is it kind of lets you clip corners that you wouldn't normally be able to get up otherwise, where it's very small amounts of extra leeway because of that. And in that one room, if the enemy is in a spot where he's not on the corner, you can just clip up to that corner and you don't have to land on a platform to the right, which was nice. Saves a few seconds. Alright, but these roly-poly dudes can get a little annoying if they don't cooperate, but thankfully they're good. Also, I like the little guy in the enclosed space there that's just rolling around. Also, I did skip over it, but I did pick up a battery on the route here. That battery basically just gives me an extra augment slot, which I'll be using later when I pick up extra augments. Also, this is the fast travel station. I do need to open this station here, specifically in the overgrowth, for later, and that is the only fast travel station I need to open for the route. But you will not be seeing the overgrowth again for another 30 minutes. It's literally the last thing I do in the run before the final boss. But I need to open it now so I can come back. Alright, this room here has wind pushing me to the left. So even more so than other rooms, I need to be making sure that I'm dashing and stuff as much as possible. Alright, this guy's in the way. There we go.
So I want your opinion. A lot of people hate on water levels. Some people, self-included, say water levels aren't that bad because we have ice levels. And then there's another class of people that say, hey, those are both fine because wind levels exist. Which is the worst, water levels, ice levels, or wind levels?
It depends on the game, I'll be honest.
Also, I'll be honest, this boss fight does not look very hard.
This is the first half of the boss fight.
Okay.
Don't worry, there's a second phase.
Continue.
No, I would say probably wind for me as well.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of fun water levels, and ice levels have really good vibes.
That's reasonable. I'm having a hard time thinking of some of the fun water levels, but I take your word for it.
Fun water levels in this game.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it.
Alright, I am taking more damage here than I would like.
Chat, please argue. What's worse, water levels, ice levels, wind levels?
I was distracted by wind levels. That's fine. I'm joking. That's fine. I just gotta do the movement again. It's very unfortunate that I died there because I did not grab a checkpoint because because when you die, you go back to the last checkpoint that you were at, and I wanted to save that checkpoint there. So while that is unfortunate, it's not the end of the world. It's just a few minutes because Sniper Moth is annoying at times because he is basically a Sniper Moth with how he shoots lasers at you. But yeah, to actually talk about that boss that I accidentally died to. That is what I call the Sniper Moth, because the first phase is kind of like just a giant cocoon, so you can just kind of pogo on it a whole bunch. It's not that interesting. But the second phase is a giant moth that shoots lasers at you, and ideally, you just don't get hit during the first phase at all, but depending on the RNG, you will get hit during that phase. And I got bad RNG, so I got hit a bit during that. And going into phase 2 of that fight without full health is not like the end of the world or anything, but it does make it so you have to play a little more carefully, and I did not play carefully enough. But the way the phase 2 works is phase 2 actually has 2 attack patterns, where it's a damage threshold, and if you do enough damage, the boss transitions to the second attack pattern. And the first attack pattern is it slams down twice. Like it slams down, it'll slam down again, and then it'll shoot projectiles at you. And then the phase 2 is the same thing, but instead of slamming twice separately, it slams down 3 times in close succession during the same attack. And as a result, you just have to dodge everything. And the slams and the projectiles are randomized within the attack pattern, so you don't know actually which one you're going to get. But yeah, and it is actually possible to damage it enough during the phase, the attack phase, so that it starts the second attack pattern right after the first one. And so if you were to do enough damage, it would technically be possible to one-cycle the boss, but nobody's done it yet because it's really, really difficult, and it loses time if you don't get a one-cycle and you get the attack pattern transition. So I usually go out of my way to make sure I don't do that. Alright. I avoided some of the damage, but I took a little bit. But because of the way the game works, I have full health still. Because when you die, you drop a health core. And that health core, you have to go back to where you died in order to pick it up. But when you do pick it up, it gives you a 1 pip of temporary health to make up for the fact that you died and made it back to where you died. Alright, projectiles. Whoops. Okay. Alright, it should be good to kill him with the second phase now. Alright, these lasers can be very annoying, but thankfully they're cooperating. Alright. Alright, should be dead. There. Okay. Cool. And that's the Sniper Moth. And when you beat the Sniper Moth, you get the next upgrade. This is a weapon upgrade, and it gives you the bomb. It's a bomb.
That is highly disappointing that you defeat a moth whose special ability is shooting lasers and you don't get a cool laser.
Hey, the bomb's just as useful because it lets you blow up blocks that are in the way, and it also gives you a damage upgrade, essentially, because now you have 2 projectiles you can shoot.
Alright, I'll take it.
Alright, so another thing with the health cores that you can drop is that you can also spend 50 flux at a checkpoint to get them back without having to go back, which is one of the reasons why I collect 250 money, because the damage upgrade only costs 150, but you need an extra 100 to get your health cores back from intentional deaths. So that is what I'm doing. Also, these platforms were blocked off by blocks like that one on the right there, where they can't go all the way down because you need to hit them with the bomb. But because the bombs basically have infinite range, you can just shoot straight up, hit them before you're supposed to, and just skip an entire platforming section. And I feel like it's one of those intentional Metroidvania things where it's like, if you know the platform's there, they just let you hit it. And the same thing goes for the platform here, because there's one right there. But yeah, the bomb, because now I have it for fights as well, the bomb does about like 1.5 times as much damage as my regular blaster shot. And so I'm basically just going to be spamming both of them whenever I have a chance. Alright, so this is another room where I have to destroy some blocks. Alright. Thankfully I made the cycle that I wanted. Alright, these enemies in this room are annoying, so I have to make sure I clear them out. Otherwise they will explode on me. Alright. Yeah, this game does have, like, damage numbers for all the actual, like, weapons and stuff, but you don't worry about them because you can't actually see them. Alright, this is the next boss here. This is the bloat specimen. He just kind of bounces around a lot. He's kind of annoying. And he's also why the bomb is so useful, is because sometimes he can bounce out of your blaster range, so you just kind of shoot bombs at him until he gets back. Alright, but after certain damage thresholds, he transitions to this spike attack, and he does that a few times, and you want him to do that as much as possible, because it's really easy to hit him while he's doing it. Alright. That boss is deceptively difficult. Like, it's a lot harder than it looked, but if you can do it quickly, it's not too bad. Alright, now we get the most powerful movement upgrade in the game. This is the bounce. It lets you, if you hit the trigger, you'll bounce on the ground at about, it'll bounce you up at about jump height. It lets you bounce on those little pink things on the left there. It'll let you bounce on enemies. And importantly, there's some unintended tech to it, because you can also do this. Because that is a super bounce. And you can also use your bomb to do a bomb bounce, which is not as high as a super bounce, but you don't have to start on the ground to do it. So what a super bounce is essentially abusing the forgiveness mechanics of the game, where you do a bounce and then you jump right after you leave the ground. And because the game, you know, treats it as like, oh, you just left the ground, you can still jump for a little bit. The game will add your jump height to the height from the bounce, and it just sends you super high as a result. And it is very not intended, because it actually was not in the game on launch, because there was a patch after the game came out that adjusted the forgiveness mechanics to make them more lenient, and a side effect of that is they added super bounces. And they are very, very useful. Alright, so I can use some bomb bounces to get up here quickly, and this is the second augment I'll be using throughout the run. This is Nomadic Compressor. It's a double jump, because double jump is an optional upgrade. Also,
so you've got bounce and double jump. Is there nonsense with combining those two?
Not specifically, but there is nonsense that you'll be seeing as a result of them in general.
Excellent.
Because now we basically have our full movement kit. But we don't quite have all of the damage that I want, so I'm going to be making a couple detours real quick. So basically, what I did at that last station, though, is because I'm about to get the damage upgrade in a bit, I unequipped one of the 4 core augments for the game. What I mean by that is there's 4 augments that control your basic, like, functions that you can unequip to get a quarter of a slot from your augments, where you can unequip, like, your positioning on the minimap, you can unequip your HUD, you can unequip healing, and you can unequip your health core ejection. So now whenever I die, instead of dropping a health core, I will instead lose half of my money. So every time I die from here on out, I won't drop a health core, but because I don't need money, I can just do that instead. And an extra little bonus is it gives me an extra quarter of a augment slot, which I will be using every single bit of augment slots I have. Because at the beginning of the run, I also unequipped the GPS for the minimap, because I'm obviously not using the map at all. Right, but I have 150 money, so I can talk to this dude, and he'll upgrade my gun. So that does 50% extra damage. And then I can just force respawn and head back to the checkpoint. The other augment that I picked up is the other damage upgrade I wanted, which is the Wave Blaster. It shoots out like a cone of shots in addition to the regular shot, and each shot in the cone does like a quarter of the damage of your regular shot, which already, you know, hitting an enemy with like a bunch of extra small shots like that is nice, but each of those extra shots also gives you spark blood, so basically now if I fire one shot, I will just refill my entire meter. Alright, so that right there was a bit I needed to do for story progression, where it's kind of like the Dream Nail in Hollow Knight before you go to the Dreamers. I'm going to keep comparing to Hollow Knight because it's really easy to compare a Metroidvania to Hollow Knight. But basically, I had to go to that terminal and pick up the AI known as Quirk. And I need Quirk in order to reactivate the subsystems around the map. Like, if I were to go to one of them right now, if I didn't have Quirk, I wouldn't be able to do anything to them. So I have to make a little detour there. Alright. Also, as I move to the next section, if you have anything you want to say, Dayman, go ahead.
Well, right now we're still working towards those incentives for Clue and Code Veronica, so we would appreciate anything we can get towards that. We're starting to definitely close in on a cutoff for Code Veronica in particular, because that is the next run. We are currently $50 shy, so we've got $100 of the $150 that we need for that one to upgrade to S rank for all those missions, and then we have a bit a ways away time-wise in order for Clue, because that's not happening until this evening, but we are trying to get to $290 to make everyone play the game on hard difficulty. It means they will get more obscure hints as they work their way through that game. If you don't know the differences between the regular board game Clue and this one, is that the game decides what your clue is when you perform an investigation, and they can give you some very, very obscure hints so that can make the game a little bit trickier. But keep those coming in. Back to you, Sam.
All right. Oh, hey, I got good RNG. So what I was doing there is these guys fire shots, and there's like a little button behind the door there. And the only way to open that door early is to have those enemies just teleport into a spot where they can hit it. And so you just kind of have to wait and get a good RNG. But this is Mind Skip. I'm supposed to have the climb in order to go through this area, like the wall climb. But instead, I can do this. All right, this one's not cooperating. So what I'm doing is I'm basically shooting a bomb at the wall, double jumping right above it, and then pausing, because the bomb timer still continues while the game is paused, and so you can make it so the bomb timer goes off right when you unpause, allowing you to instantly have it go off, and it launches you up because the bomb, gives you momentum, so you can get through that area without the climb. That is why we collected all of the different movement abilities that we did before we went here, because this allows us to go straight to the boss that gives us the wall climb, instead of actually, going through this area as intended. And also, I did get good RNG there, because this Mind Skip here is the choke point for the run. Because basically, if you get bad RNG, those enemies can just kill your run. Because if they don't want to cooperate, you just have to take it. You can't really do anything about it. And also, Mind Skip itself is not easy, but it's very, very doable to get good at. Which, thankfully, I got through it first try, which I have messed it up in the past where I die and have to go back to a checkpoint. Which I would have taken a safety checkpoint if I needed it, but thankfully I didn't. Alright, but this boss here, it's just a giant drill. But phase 2 is he goes into the lava, and now you just gotta poke on him a whole bunch. And then he pops out a few times, and he's dead. Nice and easy, because this is why we got those damage upgrades, is because it just starts shredding bosses like it's nobody's business. Alright, but this here is the second to last upgrade we'll be getting. This is the wall climb. It's a wall climb. It's pretty self-explanatory. But because we grabbed the checkpoint right above the boss, we can just go respawn and go back to it real quick. Alright, so we're going to be going to the first subsystem very soon, but in order to get there, there's some locked doors. So there's one more boss that we have to fight, where when we beat the boss, it'll open up all of the locked doors around the map. Whoops. That's unfortunate. Alright, I jumped a little too early there. But yeah, once we beat the boss, it'll open up all of the locked doors around the map. And that's why we're going to go kill it. But this is a very vertical section here, where I'm basically going straight up from this point onward until I get to the boss. And this is where the super bounce comes in handy, and the bomb bounce, and also when you combine the two of them, you go even higher. So it's the super bomb bounce. But yeah, this is why this is like the most important piece of tech in the run, is because, you just go super high, and it's not necessarily in ways you're intended to. Alright, so like here, right, I'm gonna do a super bomb bounce, and it just sends you extremely high. Like, it's ridiculous how much height it gives you. Alright. Alright, dodging all these laser shots is a little annoying, but it's not too bad. Alright, and then do one more super bomb bounce to go up this giant vertical shaft. And I'm going to be at the next boss. This is Cerebellum. It's a giant floating head in a jar. Hence the name Cerebellum. Yeah, this boss is kind of annoying. It's not a terribly hard fight, but it's very easy for this boss fight to be slow, depending on what happens. Because if you're careful, you always have time to heal, but, you know, if you're healing, you're not doing damage, and, you know, if you get hit too much, it makes the fight go pretty slowly. But it does also have some of the best music in the game, which I appreciate. But yeah, this phase 1 of the boss fight just has four attacks where it shoots all these projectiles at you using the targeting system. It charges straight at you, it fires a few lasers, stuff like that. And then phase 2, it basically still has all those attacks, but like they're variants. Because instead of charging at you, it turns into a Beyblade. And instead of just firing lasers, it turns into a Beyblade. And it also still fires these projectiles with the targeting system, but the patterns are a little different, so they're a little harder to predict. Oh, he's actually being pretty nice. Hey, that was pretty good, actually. Alright, and then after killing you, you can force respawn immediately because he opens the door on death, so you don't actually have to pick anything up, so you can just force respawn immediately and go back to this checkpoint again. Alright, now that that is done, the other reason why we have all of these specific movement upgrades that we do is because there is a Super Dash ability, where, you know, it's kind of like the Crystal Dash in Hollow Knight, that I am not going to be getting at all during the run. I am skipping it entirely, and you are intended to use it to get to this section here. Which will seem pretty obvious when you actually see the kind of movement that I'm doing. Because in order to get to this next section, I kind of need to wait for this floating dude on the left here to get in position, and then I can get across by bouncing off of him. Instead of, normally you would have to use a super dash to get across there, but instead I was able to do that. And that required every single piece of movement that I had. That required the bounce, that required the dash, that required the wall climb, that required the double jump. But now I can go to the first subsystem here in the mines. So the way these subsystems work is you go to the terminal, Quirk will say, alright, you gotta hit a few buttons, and then you go hit a few buttons. And you gotta make sure all the buttons are active at the exact same time. So like they all have individual timers on them, and when you hit them, they'll start running out. And you just gotta hit them all before the timers run out. It's pretty easy, especially once you know how to move in this game, but casually the one in this room is actually pretty difficult. Alright, so now that we did that, you might have noticed there was that suspicious looking room to the right of the terminal, where it kind of looked like enemies would spawn there. That's because they do spawn there. But they spawn there on your way out, so if you just force respawn before you actually spawn the enemies, you don't have to actually do the wave fight there, you can just leave. And it's that way for literally every single one of the subsystems. Where every single one you reactivate, there's supposed to be a wave fight on your way out that you're supposed to do. But because we force respawn, we don't have to do any of them.
Nice. Real quick, before you keep going, we do have a $10 donation from Iris that says, let's make S rank happen. Contributing that, of course, towards the Code Veronica incentive. We are ever closer to making that happen. We do have just a little bit more time. Let's keep this moving and see if we can have that incentive make. Thank you very much, Iris.
Yeah, let's get some S ranks going, because I know Resident Evil is a very interesting game, and I don't know how S rank changes the runs, but it'll be interesting.
$40 left. We can do it.
We can do that. We've got 10-15 minutes left in this run. Alright, so now we're going to be leaving the mines here. Thankfully, we never have to come back, because the mines is by far the worst section in the game. Because there's 2 bosses, a ton of difficult movement, and just, this place is the run killer. But thankfully, we're out of it. We're in the subways now. We get some water movement here, nothing too crazy. It's pretty tame where, you know, you've got just your normal underwater jump, but because the water here has a current, you got to deal with that as well. Nothing too out of the ordinary, but that's because we don't have any of our water upgrades yet. And by that I mean we're going to get the last upgrade of the run, which is the ability to swim. But that's not going to be for a little bit because we got to actually make it there first. So in the meantime, we're going to be grabbing this checkpoint because we're going to be using this checkpoint for the rest of the run. This is going to be our hub area, basically, because we're going to deactivate the last few subsystems, do some extra stuff, and then also go to the final boss from here. There's also these little subway cars down here where once you go to an area with one of them, they're unlocked to fast travel to from any of the other ones. And that is going to be useful later, but because we don't have any of them unlocked, we can't use them yet. Alright. Dang it. This guy just teleports in front of you sometimes. He's annoying. Alright. Some classic cycle-based platforming. Alright, now that we're here, we're going to be going into this room, and this room leads to the basin. So the basin is the water area. It's also where we're going to be getting swim. But first we get to do this, and just fall down the entire way. Because when you have your bounce out, you fall faster than if you don't have your bounce out. And as a result, if you're falling for super long distances, you just want to use bounce and then fall down like that. Also, that switch we hit through the wall, we weren't supposed to do that, but because the bomb goes through the wall ever so slightly, you can hit the switch early, and we can do this route instead of the intended route. Because the way this area is supposed to work is there's a terminal in the area all the way to the right that's going to open a few valves to open up some pipes, and you're supposed to go open those valves and then go through the pipes that they open up in order to reach the boss of this area. But because we hit that switch, we can actually just take a different path where there's no valves, and then we don't have to do that at all instead. And we can go through this area faster instead. But we do have to do this wave fight as a result of taking this specific route. So it's not all free. Oops.
All right, before you continue, we do have a donation from Adventure_Potato that says, "Do you know that CCG means nihihi?" And then to follow that up, we've got Adventure_Potato in chat that says it wasn't him. So there is an imposter. However, thank you, whoever it was, for the $25. That moves us ever so closer to getting S rank and Code Veronica. We are now only $15 away. Hey, if anyone else wants to chuck in an imposter $15 or even an imposter $5 train, that would move us ever so closer to having that incentive, May. We're doing all right, but you know, we've got a few minutes left in this run. I think we can definitely make that happen.
Let's get a $5 train of pretending to be Potato. Alright, this is the next boss. This is the big fish. I don't ever remember his actual name because he is the easiest boss in the run. The reason I say he's the easiest boss in the run is because you can damage tank every single one of his attacks and just heal before the next attack comes out, and you are never at risk of dying. Because each attack takes so long to come out. He also doesn't even have that much health, as you can see, because he's already dead. Also, something I've done a few times, which I didn't call out yet, but you might have noticed, is if you heal the instant you go through a loading zone, the healing animation will actually overlap with the loading transition between rooms. And so if you ever want to heal, that is actually the optimal time to do it, which is during a transition between rooms like that. And it is, I don't know if it's frame perfect, but it's not easy. Also, you can go through this area faster, like that little tunnel right there, by having your bounce go into it, because you just instantly start falling at maximum speed as opposed to being in water, which is one of my favorite room transitions. Alright, but now we have the swim. This is the swim. Ah, dang it, I messed up the cycle there. But yeah, you have a drill now, and this is your swim dash. And the reason why it's so fun is because if you hold A, after every single dash, you'll do like one of your little swim jumps. And doing one of those little swim jumps recharges the dash. And so if you just hold the A button and mash the dash button, you can just continually dash underwater. And this is why water levels in this game are fun. It's because you can just do that the whole time. Alright. And I did do... The intended way to do this area is not what I did. Because another thing with the swim is that it also technically gives you a shine spark. Where if you fall into water from a super high distance, it'll, like, conserve that momentum. And you're supposed to use that to, like, jump out of the other side of the water, because it's, like, does a U in that room. And you're supposed to jump out the other side of the water with the shine spark, so that you, like, shoot up super high out of the water. But we have super bomb bounces, so we don't even have to do that.
Great, and we have some more good news and some more nice fraud news. We have a $15 donation from IllegallySam that says, "It's not fraud if I'm their alter ego." So thank you very much for the $15 from IllegallySam. We now have all that we need for the Code Veronica S rank. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Also,
we can start working on heading towards playing Clue in the highest difficulty. We are 40 out of $190. Keep chipping away at that. I want to see these people suffer.
All right. So what, for like some little story context here, after that last subsystem, Quirk left for reasons that I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's for plot reasons. And because she was the one activating all the subsystems when we went to all of them, we need to find a way to activate the last subsystem without Quirk, so we have to make a little detour to the labs here. What we're doing here is we just have to go through the labs. There's going to be a spot at the end of the labs that we have to interact with, and that'll give us the ability to activate the last subsystem even though we don't have Quirk. This area is kind of annoying, specifically because of this room here, because there's just a bunch of turrets that shoot stuff at you, and they are very difficult to dodge all of their shots. And I have died in that room more than once, but thankfully we got through it, even though it was very scuffed. Alright, so now that, you know, we made it through that, there's a specific area in the labs here, which has a chair, and we're tired, so we want to sit in the chair. So let's go sit in the chair. Also has a consequence of sitting in that chair. We gotta do a little platforming section here. This is one of those sections where it's like you have to go down and around. There's like a whole bunch of appearing platforms, but we can just super bomb bounce straight to the end. And now we can activate the subsystem. I won't go into the specifics of the plot of why we can now, because, you know, major spoilers, and if you want to play this game, you know, I'm not gonna tell you what happens, because we're skipping all the cutscenes. It's hard to tell what's going on if I do that. Alright, but now that we have the ability to do that with the last subsystem, we can finally make use of the fast travel station we opened 30 minutes ago, and go to the Arboretum, which is where the last subsystem is. This is the area where you're supposed to get the Super Dash, but because we're not getting the Super Dash, we also don't have to fight any bosses here, so we can just go straight for the subsystem. There we go. So this subsystem is actually very, very possible to do without the Super Dash. It's like, you can tell, like, you're kind of supposed to have the Super Dash, but they're also very okay with you not having the Super Dash. So it's like, it's one of those areas where it's like, it's a little tricky to get through without it, but you definitely don't need it, because this is nothing too crazy. We did some crazier stuff in the mines earlier. Alright. Yeah, that room is literally like one of the only rooms that we have to actually go through in order to get here. Because there's this room here, which we can just skip most of. And then this is the room where, oh, that's a suspicious looking room. I wonder if I have to fight enemies there. Because that's the one for the way back. That we will not do. Alright, so this is the last subsystem. Just gotta activate the terminal, activate a few more buttons, and we're good, right? That's definitely all that I have to do. There's not gonna be any last things I have to do in order to actually finish the game. So we skip that. Get the glitch where it shows the terminal animation twice. And then go activate the terminal. Oh, never mind. There's a secret platforming section that you have to do for this terminal. So yeah, this is a section where basically there's 3 enemies that are like pointed to there. And in order to make it to this portal up here, you're supposed to defeat those 3 enemies. Because it makes platforms appear. But we don't have to do that because the portal's already open. And we can just super bomb bounce. And then there's another platforming section here. But if you force respawn in that section, it just puts you outside of it and you don't actually have to do it and you skip the whole thing. Alright, now we're actually good to go to the final boss. Because we just skipped basically the entire gimmick for the last subsystem there. But yeah, now we just go through this section here and we're basically already at the final boss. So if you have any last things to say before I fight the final boss, go ahead.
I mean, we're still chipping away really well, and I wish you the best of luck at your final boss. We've got more great runs coming up, but let's finish strong.
All right. See, I grabbed that checkpoint there. Normally, if this were like a PB attempt, I wouldn't grab that checkpoint, because if I die in the final boss, the PB's dead anyway. But for marathon safety, I'm doing that, in case I mess up. Because the final boss is arguably the hardest boss in the run. It's not too bad once you know what you're doing, but it is very easy to mess it up. Because this boss has 2 phases, and each of those boss phases has their own 2 phases. So there's kind of 4 phases. Or 1, 1.5, 2, and 2.5. But this is the final boss. This is Hive. He teleports around a lot. And so you just kind of gotta wail on him when he's in convenient positions. But if you're not careful, it is very easy to take damage when you're not careful. And because it's the final boss, there's not a whole lot of good healing spots. So you gotta be a little careful. Because this is one of those fights where if you heal at the wrong time, you're just gonna get eviscerated. But that slam attack, where he like slammed down on me, that is the phase change to 1.5. Because he adds an extra little attack. Whoops. Alright, should be done within the next few attacks. And then it's on to phase 2. Alright, never mind, I didn't do as much damage as I thought. A few more attacks. There we go. Alright. And skip the cutscene, and now he has a pair of legs. Now he looks like Patrick from the end of the SpongeBob SquarePants movie during Goofy Goober Rock. So this boss phase is simultaneously harder and easier than the first phase, because you basically have a lot less leeway for how you can play this boss fight. So if you know how to dodge all the attacks, it's not too hard, but as soon as you make a mistake, there's literally only one time where it's safe to heal. And so you have to wait for that to heal, otherwise you're going to get hit. So like the first phase is harder because when it comes to going fast, but the phase 2 is harder to learn how to do well in the first place. But thankfully I've done this boss fight a bunch, so we're just gonna truck through. Alright, then this is phase 2.5. He has this little desperation move where he flies around and shoots balls at you. And because you can wail on him during that attack, phase 2.5 is very short. Because he's already dead. And time will be after I skip the last cutscene. And time.
Fantastic. Looks like we're coming at a 48-25.
Yeah. This game, I didn't actually address it. It was just kind of an elephant in the room. This has an in-game speedrun timer that was at the top of the screen the entire time. And that
Yeah,
we use that in-game timer for the leaderboards because it's there.
because you have it. Yeah, it makes sense to me. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. We've got to thank you very much for the shout out in chat. Make sure you're following Legally Sam. And before we head on out, anything you'd like to say? Tell people about the game and yourself. Where can we find you?
Well, the shout out will probably point you to my channel over at twitch.tv/IllegallySam. Here I am in the credits because I speedrun the demo during the Kickstarter. I got third place because I did it for like 2 hours on the last day and I didn't have more time to get a better time than third place. But it's just kind of funny that I'm there. And then I'm also somewhere else in this list that I'm going to be fast forwarding through in the credits. But if you are interested in this game, it's on pretty much every platform. I think it's on every major console and PC. Like I said, it came out back in March, so it's still pretty new. It's a pretty fun game casually. I think my casual playthrough was like a solid 15, 20 hours. And then speedrunning, it's also really fun. If you are interested in speedrunning it, we do have a speedrun Discord for the game. It's linked on the game's SRC page. It's pretty easy to find. But yeah, if you are interested, you can also just reach out to me. We don't have like tutorials and stuff, but it's a pretty easy game to get started with. If this were a PB, this is the part where I have to enter the file again to validate the final time of 48:19. But yeah, find me on Twitch. I'm probably going to be trying to grind down the world record in this game because my world record is a 45:51, but that 45:51 loses almost 2 minutes to mind skip because I got really, really bad RNG and lost so much time to it. And so I can definitely improve that. So I'm going to be trying to improve that in the near future. So if you want to see more of that, go find me on Twitch. If you want to play the game, and that's what I've got. Thanks for letting me show it off.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be on back with the Mancunian Nightmare with Resident Evil Code Veronica X. See you soon.